When did you jump on Facebook and start putting yourself personally out there and then seeing it relate to business? Was it quickly or short over time? What was that?
It was over time, but it definitely started when I was in the restaurant business, when I was managing a restaurant, because you were all about who you know, who your friends are, bartenders, doing events. I was managing a restaurant. I was in charge of holding their events, happy hours, and it was in the middle of corporate Philadelphia. So I had to be relevant, and my bosses made sure that I was.
So was that was part of, I guess, the culture or the ethos that, hey, get on social media because it'll draw attention, or was that discussed, or was it an intuition?
It was a little bit of all of what you just mentioned, but I had so much fun doing it, and I love social media so much that it wasn't something that I felt like I needed to do. Like, it wasn't a task of mine, like, oh, I need to wake up and post this at 8:45 a.m. or this at 11. It was exactly like, hey, I'm putting this together. I think that it would be great if you spearheaded it, invite your friends, and then all of a sudden their friends started following me and vice versa, and then everyone started knowing what was going on at this restaurant. But this was probably
how long had Facebook been around at this time?
11 years ago.
So that was around the inception of it. And so when that looked like you had Facebook, you had friends on Facebook, and then you put out a comment, hey, this is going on, and you saw people that actually came to the restaurant from looking at the comments.
Absolutely. That is how I have. Yes.
That's powerful.
I love, my favorite thing about Facebook is memories. I look back at some of these memories and I see how cool I was and how thin I was. And I used to be so hard on myself. I'm like, what was I thinking? I was like a supermodel.
Yeah, I love it.
And now look at me. Now I'm married. No, I'm kidding.
Don't cut
No.
They need the real.
No, but it was, at the time when I was doing that, and actually, now that I think about it, it wasn't necessarily asked of me. It really was natural. Then Facebook became more prominent and events started getting big.
So you're in the restaurant business, and one day, or was it maybe a couple of string of days, it clicked, real estate salesperson. Was it an event that occurred to you, or was it a mentor? What happened?
That's really interesting. So John Torrey, my broker, who's also one of my best friends, I have been friends with him and been basically a part of his family for almost maybe more than 15 years. Before I was in the restaurant business, I was a website salesperson, and I sold websites and search engine optimization and marketing and branding to mostly all the restaurants in the city. So that's really how I have
that got you involved. Okay.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the market took a dive. There were layoffs being made. And I'm just not that kind of person to wait to collect unemployment to figure out what my next step was going to be. I am a firm believer of just doing it.
So you didn't want a handout?
I know.
Oh, good for you.
Looking back now, I think maybe. No. No.
Okay, so you thought you had a relationship with John, who is hard not to get along with, and I don't know him that long.
He's so intelligent. He's so intelligent, and he's so knowledgeable in his craft. And the involvement of his entire family in Philadelphia for so long, it's hard not to get captivated. So after a while of him seeing what I was doing, how hard I was working, how much I loved what I was doing, I'm a salesperson, natural born, he was the one that was pushing me to get my real estate license, and I did not want to do it.
So you were kind of pushing it away in a sense, but he caught your ear. How long did it take for those words of wisdom to sink through? What was that process?
It took a scenario.
Okay.
So I was working in the
Remember, it's just us. No one's ever going to see it. So
I know.
It's weird. We can just talk about it.
Can you sign an NDA? No, I'm kidding.
Everyone will.
I was working at this restaurant, and my bosses at the time were really incredible. I've always been lucky. I have always had incredible mentors in any business that I was in. And they always felt that I was destined for more. So they always gave me tasks. I was always challenged, which I really appreciate. And I finally got my real estate license to shut him up. It was like 2007. No one wanted to get into real estate anymore.
Yeah, that's right after things were difficult.
Oh, yeah. Everyone was running for the hills in real estate, and I was getting my license. I was like, this is never going to work. But a friend of mine had reached out to me when I was working at the restaurant and said, I'm looking for an apartment. Do you know anything about X building? I said, oh, absolutely. It's this, that, the other. I just knew about all this organically because of all of my prior experience, having been in the restaurant business, having been a sales consultant, marketing, et cetera. And I rented him an apartment. And I made more money off of that apartment than I had busting my hump for 55 hours. So I was like, light bulb, light bulb.
So you had the license because you took John's advice. He's going to see this like, yeah. He took his advice.
He knows. I hated him for it. I hated every move. I hated him.
It was uncomfortable. Was it the testing? I failed that thing like
I hate
twice.
I hate doing what someone tells me to do. I like to get to that.
Let's shelve that and psychoanalyze. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay. So you did it, and then you got the check that inspired you to keep going. So at that point, did you start planning your
At that point, sunshine parted the clouds, and green dollars started sprinkling down.
And spoke Zarathustra.
I was like, wow.
No one's going to get that.
But honestly, what really did it, until this day, my very first client, I'm still friends with him.
Wow.
He was so happy about moving into this apartment, and he felt like I had changed things for him. And that's actually how I really got into the business.
Seeing that
I made such an impact and how happy he was. And then he started telling people about me and what I had done for him when I wasn't even doing real estate full time. I had, devoted so much time, and I was interested, and I wanted to make sure he was going to be happy. And that's what I do with all my clients.
So you're in that moment. It's like a week after you had helped this person. You realize that the money's there. There's emotion there. There's purpose there in a sense. You were still working in the restaurant business.
Yes.
How did you make that work to make the transition, and how long did it take?
My bosses felt that I would be very good in real estate. They actually said to me, they're like, this is perfect for you. And they gave me the opportunity to stay on working as a bartender because I would need to supplement my income somehow. No one gets into real estate and becomes a millionaire. So
you were the manager, and then they were flexible enough in their leadership and what they saw in you that they're like, bartender give you the flexibility?
Mm-hmm. And I'm still very close to them today. I just... amazing people, one in particular, and I think that it's about seeing an entrepreneur and not wanting to hold them back and wanting what's best for them. Like I said, I've been really lucky with everyone that I've worked with, and they knew me really well. So I was bartending, and I had a ton of connections from doing that. And oh, by the way, here's your Stoli up. I'm also doing real estate now. Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything that you're interested in? Do you like investing? You're here drinking all the time, but you live out in the burbs, maybe looking for a crash pad in the city.
So you're bartending. I want to buy now, and I want to drink. Side conversation. So you're bartending, but it sounds like you built relationships with the people that were, your clients there by getting to know them. Because if you didn't get to know them, then you wouldn't know where they were living.
And they wouldn't have trusted me to talk to them.
Who taught you? Was it taught or was it natural to get to know people in that way of asking questions and listening to understand, I guess you could say?
I love talking to people, and I love asking questions. Not everyone loves to be asked that many questions, but in my experience, it's worked out for me because I'm very sincere and I like to listen. And that's basically how I got my start from bartending.
So you're a bartender. Years before, at some point in time, I was an awkward kid in the back of the class with his head down, sleeping, not asking any questions. And then there's the archetypal person in the front getting A's and asking all the questions.
That was not me.
So were we in the middle? Were you in the back? Were you like throwing spitballs at me asleep? Who were you in school?
So, I'm going to tell you a little secret about me that a lot of people don't know.
It's only us talking.
I know.
No one's going to see this.
Make sure you don't repeat this.
We're not going to do a Facebook ad about it.
So, when I was about 12 years old, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor in the back area that controlled basically all of your motor skills. I was very, very sick. I was told that I was going to have cross eyes. I was told that I was never going to be able to walk again. I was told that I would never be able to control my facial movements. It was bad. My father flew in rabbis from Israel to pray for me. It was bad. This happened twice. From the time I was 12 till about 15. So I was homeschooled. And when I did go to school, I had developed fabulous relationships with all the disciplinarians, the vice principal, the principal, and we would talk a lot like you and I are talking. Okay. And it got to the point where they just, I don't want to say they felt sorry for me, but they knew that the last thing that was on my mind was getting ready for this exam or that exam. So they would give me tasks to do. So I would help them pull cut slips and pull people out of class and do this and do that. So my high school career, it really wasn't that great, unfortunately, because of that. But there isn't a moment that goes by, a day, that I don't think about like how I got my start. Because a lot of my friends, they were applying for colleges and they still had so many memories from school. And there are times when I think to myself, you know, how would it have been for me if I would have taken that plunge? But the truth is I didn't want to waste my parents' money.
Wow, it wasn't in your cards.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I trusted myself enough to know, and I felt that since I had overcome as much as I had overcome with my health, that I was destined for something great. I thought maybe I'd run for president. I thought maybe, you know, I would marry, you know, an actor in Hollywood, and I would just be able to retire, and who knows, but no.
I can't wait to ask you. It's awesome. Hey, he's how we met.
Yeah.
Right? It's absolutely awesome. So I'm curious because 12 years old, a lot of people could say, you know, there's two ways to look at that. There's a way that's like, wow, like how I quit. Or there's a way of like, I'm going to persevere. Was there a moment where you said, I'm going to be better, not bitter?
I was never bitter. I was always feeling grateful because I was surrounded with, so I was in Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and you see very awful things.
That's powerful.
I was surrounded by so much pain from other people that I honestly couldn't even think about myself, especially looking at my parents, what they had went through, my sister, what she had gone through, watching me as sick as I was. There were many a times that I had to be reminded that I was just as sick as the child that I was sharing the room with. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that until after my first surgery that was like 9 hours long, and they had to shave my head and all that stuff. But no, never for a moment was I bitter. I'm, to this day, entirely grateful for the chance that I've been given.
Before that diagnosis, did you put yourself in other people's shoes? Was that how you always kind of thought, you know, as a young child, 10?
Yeah, I think
11,
that, like,
9.
You know, I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression, like, you come from strong stock.
Yeah.
You know, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My father moved here from Israel with nothing more than $50 in a suitcase, although that sounds cliche. At 20 years old after the army, he really did. So I come from a family of survivors and fighters, and my entire life, that's what I saw. There was never a woe is me moment. There was never a what am I going to do moment. It was all about this is what you have to do, and only you can make it happen. No one else is going to.
That was your uncle that came over?
My father.
Your father came with the suitcase. Was he in the war?
Yeah, my father was an Israeli soldier, and he was also a professional soccer player in Israel. He traveled with the Middle Eastern soccer team. He moved here when he was 20. He spoke no English. He started driving a taxi cab.
Wow.
United Cab, and I have this huge picture of him next to a red and white cab, which is really cool. And he started driving cab, and he loved it, and that's how he learned his English.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And then he started owning cabs, and then he started operating them and owning cab companies. My mom moved here when she was 9, also from Israel, spoke no English. And my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. They spoke no English. So, you know, no one really had it easy at all. So when all of these terrible things happened to me, my parents were just devastated. I mean, my father moved my mattress into their bedroom and slept by my side for like a year, like wouldn't let me leave him. And it's hard to see like a really strong...
Had he already had his business together and all that?
Yeah, but he was afraid to leave me. He was afraid that he was going to miss something or something was going to happen to me.
That's so powerful. Did your parents meet in a cab?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not. My mom spoke Hebrew, and not a lot of people did. And someone asked my mom if she could meet this guy, and she wasn't interested because he didn't speak English. But he was a very attractive man.
All right, there you go.
And she met him, and my grandparents were like, "We love this man for you. You're gonna meet him, and you're gonna get together with him, whether you like it or not." It was a little different.
What do you think the number one character trait was it that they saw in your father to drive them to?
You know what? Only if you met my father would you know what I was talking about. He's like a big teddy bear. He's the most kind soul, and he talks to you, or he doesn't talk, but he looks at you and you can just like feel into his heart. He's a really incredible person.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's really powerful. Just honestly talking about it.
You believe that some of that's translated to how you have gotten to the point where every day I learn from people, I listen to people, and a lot of people don't say that everyone that they have done business with, employers, wish them the best. To me, it's just very psychological. It's almost like you're translating that energy into from your father. I'm just saying, like as a.
I think that I have. I really feel like, I mean, I'm almost 40 years old. I'm 39, and everyone I've ever met that has ever met my father is like, you're exactly like him. So, but yes, I have been very lucky. At all of my previous employers, they've kind of pushed me to the next thing. They're like, you can do better. Go, fly. Spread your wings.
Wow.
You're better than this.
So we're in our first 3 months of real estate. Are you bartending still?
Yes.
And doing it?
I am.
What was did you have a plan in place of what the transition period would look from part-time to full-time? Because there's probably a lot of real estate professionals watching this that can relate, or people that are getting into the business or have, they're like, well, what's that magic number? Or is there one? What's the mindset of someone that's become so successful?
I don't think that there is a magic number. I think that perseverance is the most important message that I could possibly relay. It was hard. I was banging the pavement. Like I said, it was 2007. So I was doing very, very old school practices, which I still actually do today. And it was hard, but I stuck through it. And to be honest, like John and his family, they were very supportive of me, and they saw something. His father, and I just remember it, he would always say, Jamie, this business is meant for you. You're going to be doing great things.
And this is the real estate broker?
This is his father, who unfortunately has passed on. But, just hearing that from someone who had been in this business for decades, say that to me, someone who was so accomplished, and John himself and his mother and his sister, who's our in-house attorney, it's just having that kind of power behind me. It was so much more than, me joining a large office, like a large conglomerate with other agents. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of like culture matters, like that was my culture.
Well,
and
it sounds like you're aligned. You've been aligned since day one, in the sense
Absolutely.
of the level of trust.
Like the way that I was trained was basically like, this is how you do it. See if you can do it yourself. If you can, I'm here to catch you if you fall. But you're going to keep on making mistakes until you stop making mistakes.
Wow.
Because I was never a classroom person.
Okay.
I was never going to be able to, see on a chalkboard what you were doing. I had to actually go through the motions myself.
Wow. So within the first, let's say that first year you're bartending, when was it that you went into it full-on action? The first few years?
I would say a year, 8 months to a year. I started, doing a lot of rentals, and people were so grateful to me because, they were saying, well, I had this experience and I had this experience. And I had so much experience in sales and dealing with the public, and I had dealt with it from all ends, that it came so natural to me, and I loved it. And the hustling, I really like that you get out as much as you put in, basically, is what it is. You can't just sit idly by the phone and say, oh, when is someone going to call me? When am I going to get some business? It doesn't work that way.
So your schedule with bartending, was it every night or a certain, like 4 days, 5 days a week? And then during the day, did you set up some type of like, hey, I'm going to treat this like a job, like I get in at 8, I leave at 4? What was your understanding? Or was it 24/7? You're always working in a sense. Every conversation is a person that probably needs help. What did that look like for you? How do people need to think when they're in the real estate business or in sales in general?
I mean, that's everything that you just said. You just answered the question. That is sales. Everything that I've ever done in sales, every single person that I had ever come in contact with was a client of mine at some point. Every single person in my life. Most of my friends have been clients. Some of them haven't been. When I was doing website sales, every time I went to a restaurant, this restaurant might need a new website. This restaurant might need branding. This restaurant might need advertising, marketing. And they like talking to you, number one, because you're a customer there. They like that you brought people in with you. And they trusted what you were saying because obviously you could tell what it was that they were lacking in their business. And I'm brutally honest about that.
So would you say you're always truthful?
Always. 100%.
Some people I've met in my life that are truthful now weren't truthful at some point in their life, and that hit them. For example, I have a friend, that told everyone that, I'm definitely not going to say their name, but they told everyone that their father was the Monopoly man or something like that, and like at a young age, and then everyone realized, and they're like, no, he's not. And now this person decided never to lie ever again.
Truth always comes out.
Was there an experience that helped you realize that telling the truth? Because, culture, we talk about this all the time. Be open, be curious, think, tell the truth. Who was it? A mentor that taught you that? Was it your experience that taught you that? How did you come to that conclusion that it would work out?
That was a little bit of everything. So I remember my very first mentor. His name was Jake Much. Him and his partner Tony Kindness. They're still, Much Kindness. That's the LLC. It was they work. It was that was the website company. Like, they were my favorite mentors, my first real mentors.
Oh, so before the restaurant or
the website company that I was working for. They always said, Jamie, you're as good as your last update. That's basically what it is. And this was before the whole social media thing became as strong as it was. They were ahead of their time, and I learned a lot from them. Was there a specific experience that catapulted me into being honest? I just think that either you're born a certain way or not. It's not something that you can learn, I don't think. My honesty doesn't always work in my favor. I sometimes have to at night go like this, like practice exercising, biting my tongue, because I'm not that great at it.
Interesting. Worst experience from telling the truth, best experience from telling the truth.
Okay. Best experience from telling the truth. Let's see. My best experience from telling the truth. Are we relating this to real estate or just in general?
Now I want both.
It was always great for me to walk into like a flailing restaurant. Sometimes people would find it to be obnoxious, but like, if I walked into a restaurant where, there wasn't any presence in the front, or no one was answering the phones, or there was never any upselling being done, things of that nature, but I felt like the restaurant deserved that kind of respect. Like, if their food was really good, I'm like, why do not more people need to know about this place? Like, why are you not selling gift cards off the chain for Christmas and Hanukkah? Like, why are you not, or any holiday, of course. I'm trying to be politically correct. Forgot. So I think that that's kind of like my worst experience would probably be, trying to talk someone out of a real estate project that they were going to be investing in that I felt was not a good move for them.
Interesting. Even though you could have got a commission.
Right. I would never do that. Because you would never, in real estate for me, my goal is never to have a client for one transaction. That's I hope powerful. To have them for a lot more, and referrals. That's basically what it's about. But
never to have a client for one transaction.
Never have one. And the problem is that everyone wants to invest. Everyone wants to make the quick buck, which is impossible, even though $1 million listing and all these shows will tell us otherwise. That's not true. There's no such thing as a quick buck. I think that, anyone who thinks that that's possible is just reading the wrong books. So a friend of mine was going into a real estate investment, and he said to me, what do you think? I said, it's not a good move. You're going to be an absentee investor, but you're going to need to have more skin in the game, and you're going to have to put sweat equity in. You're going to give your money up, and then it's going to go poof. And this person was a little bit older. They really didn't have that much. They couldn't risk it. Wow. And I lost a friendship because of that for like a good 2 years. But eventually that person came around and realized that I was just looking out for them. But yes, could I have made a very large commission out of that? But I decided to take myself out of the equation just because I couldn't even see it unraveling. It hurt me too much.
Powerful. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to never doing one transaction with someone and building a business based on relationships, that belief system of putting yourself in their shoes and not doing them wrong and not looking for just me, right. Do you believe that's led to being able to do multiple transactions with clients that you've served over all this time?
I do. I do believe that. And also, I don't turn business away, no matter how large or small. So I might have just sold you an $800,000 house, and perhaps your niece now is looking for a $1,400 apartment. Will I help her? I'm not going to, give her to my imaginary assistant or to someone else in my office. I'm going to actually do the work myself, which is something that I really pride myself on doing. Us being a boutique outfit, we're able to give that kind of attention to our clients.
Has that thought process and belief structure led from that person that's just needed the apartment, at the short term might have looked like, well, this might not be worth my time. Has it led to bigger and better opportunities and more relationships?
Absolutely, absolutely. And my favorite thing in the world is when I talk to someone on the phone that tells me, Jamie, so-and-so told me to contact you. I told them what I was looking for, and I don't even think that you're going to be able to help me. But this is your business. Let's see what we can do. I love that challenge of you're never going to be able to help me find what I'm looking for. I'm that difficult of a buyer. I have never failed at that challenge. And I love that because I am in the process from soup to nuts. Wow. From the beginning on the showings to all the transactions. So none of my clients ever call me and say, hey, what I just submitted, was that right? I never say, well, let me refer to my assistant and see what she says. I'm always in it from the beginning till we get to the finish line. That way I know everything that's going on, and it really brings me a lot of joy seeing how happy they are. Sometimes I even get involved in what they're picking out to like decorate the place, or I'll help them find this or that, even though it's not part of my job description. In my mind, it is.
Has that led to better relationships, do you believe?
Absolutely, 100%.
Let's say it's Sunday and it's 2 years from now. Mm-hmm. Are you on vacation or are you in real estate?
I'm in real estate. Both. I can answer the phone on the beach.
No, it's interesting because it seems like you really genuinely enjoy what you do.
I love it. I love it.
Top 3 reasons why you love it.
Okay, the first reason is bar none. I love the fact that you get so much gratification from someone moving into their new home. They love it. I love the fact that I can take part in a very small way in the next chapter of their lives. I mean, I know that there's so much. There's Zillow, there's Realtor.com, there's all that. But the truth of the matter is, it's almost like a marriage when you decide what realtor you're going to use, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. There are a lot of emotional roller coasters that happen throughout the transaction. You have to feel comfortable asking them 1.5 million questions, and there's no such thing as a wrong question in real estate. I still learn every day from my clients, from my broker, from our lawyer, and from myself.
Wow.
No transaction is the same, not one.
So you enjoy that experience with them. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's always different, does that keep it interesting to you?
It does keep it interesting. I love the growth. This is the second part that I love, the growth. So my buyers, my first-time home buyers, are now turning into investors. So now I'm able to show them how to make money and explain what it is that they have to do, even though not every investment is a home run.
Wow.
But we do what we can to make sure that we're facilitating that.
So because you took the time to go step by step with these people that originally didn't know you, that became customers, they became satisfied customers, mm-hmm. Now you're doing repeat business years later.
Yep.
What kind of advice would you give to someone that is new in the business of how to be patient enough to understand that the process, especially as a salesperson, it seems like the industry has almost been watered down to like boiler room, quick bait, versus meet with salespeople that are doing well after many years. It seems like they build strong relationships.
I agree.
Wow. What do you tell to someone that's, they could be new in the business, been for 5 years, but aren't really seeing the result of how you conditioned yourself to be so patient? Because you got in full time within the first year, basically. So it's been 9 years of doing this commission only and doing exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, be humble, be yourself. Don't hold back, because like I said, you're going to be spending a lot of time with your clients. You have got to be yourself. They have to know who it is that they're dealing with.
And who are they dealing with?
Jamie Reibenbach, the best realtor in Philadelphia.
3 character traits that you believe is the reason that the people that work with you continue working with you. Like the 3 main.
I'm a real hard worker. I will work 24 hours a day to get a deal done. It doesn't matter if it's a rental, it's a sale. It doesn't matter what my commission is. A client is a client, and a client is important. That's the first thing that everybody will say about me. I work very hard. The second would be that I work that probably falls under working hard. But then the second would probably be my response time, how quick I am to respond to them, which, my husband is very supportive of me. I'm very lucky in that way that I get to do that. So a lot of people like that I can say on top of it. And accessible. And just knowledge of the different subdivisions of Philadelphia, the vast expansion that we see every day. I'm in it. I live it. I'm traveling all over the place. I'm going to all the restaurants.
What do you see is occurring in Philadelphia? Because we've had quite the ride the last couple of years, from the Great Recession to a boom. Now they're calling, in Brooklyn, I have contacts there, like the 6th borough they call Philadelphia. What do you see is going on? It seems like, is there a shift going on? I mean, everyone has an opinion until they don't, right? But what do you see is going on in the market? What do buyers need to know? And then what do sellers need to know? Start with buyers.
So when I started in the business, I had a very specific line drawn, whoever I was talking to. I was talking to a new client. They would tell me they didn't want to be further east than X. They didn't want to be further west than here. Now, whenever I talk to clients, they're always saying, I don't know where I want to live.
Interesting.
Yes. So I find that to be extremely exciting.
The limit in the beginning. And do you feel like that's gone?
I feel like that's gone. Absolutely.
Is that good?
Absolutely. It's great.
Good.
It's exciting.
The culture has changed.
Sure.
It's like, we're afraid of this, but now we're all right.
Oh my God. Philadelphia is the most exciting place to be.
Why?
Because everywhere you go has its own personality. You never have to be bored. All you do is get into a cab or an Uber, and in 5 minutes, you're around completely different people. And you don't have to go far at all.
Has that helped your personal life?
It has.
Just kidding.
It has.
Well, okay, so what do you think, inevitably, when things start cycling as they always do, because that's the world. Sure. The world is just a cycle. There's birth, and then there's old age, right? Where does Philadelphia, in your opinion, after being in the business this long, fall into the mix of how things are working?
Well, because so there's so much walkability in the city, and people they love to walk. So that's what I love so much about all these emerging subdivisions, because it's no more about, well, there's nowhere to walk around here, there's nowhere for me to go to eat, there's nowhere for me to take my kids to a playground. There is not much of that anymore. I don't see it stopping. I think that the growth is going to be continuing. People want to live here. People want to move here. I'm seeing a lot of people with these huge houses from the burbs want to move into like a smaller condo perhaps, or maybe even a smaller house in the city, just because of the life and the culture they're going to have. They can walk to restaurants. They can walk to shows, bowling, anything. I mean, honestly, I got a chill yesterday. I was watching the news, and in front of City Hall, they had that light show in Christmas Village. Like, this is so exciting. If I lived in a place that didn't have all this accessibility, it's fun to be able to walk to all this.
Have buyers' mindsets changed, in your opinion? Dealing with a lot of buyers, being as involved in the transaction as possible. Even 5 years to now, the things that they look for. Like 5 years ago, what were people looking for versus now? Is it because a lot of people are talking about, Moore's Law is the doubling of technology. It doubles, and then that doubling doubles, and things are happening so quick. Like, we'll talk more about social media. Right. Things are moving so quick. Do you see that people's interests are changing and the types of homes they're looking for? Like, what's interesting to them?
So I believe that everything comes back eventually, right? Styles, fashion. It's the same thing with real estate, in my opinion.
I was trying to bring the mullet back, and I stopped because it's awkward.
I don't think that you should have stopped. I think it looks fantastic on you. You totally pull it off. Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I think that I am coming across more people that are interested in the old, more traditional styles. They're not so, I love the new construction. And of course, I'm a huge fan of it because it's bringing so many people in. But a lot of people are looking for that more, like, the brick facades. They're looking for that old world
So you
charm.
still see individuals, couples, families looking for the old, even though there's so much new development.
Yes, that's what rehabs are very popular for that reason, because it's bringing the old, it's implementing the new, because, it's like a double-edged sword. I get people coming to me that say, I want an investment property, but I don't want to do too much work.
What do you tell them, right? You tell the truth. What do you say?
When they say, I'm looking for an investment property, the first thing I say is, how involved do you want to be?
Why do you ask that question?
Because there's no such thing as investing in anything and just walking away from it. You have to keep your eyes on it at all times, whether it be from your computer, whether it be from your phone. Stop by once in a while, ask questions, find out what's going on.
Did you told my father that?
Even with management companies, you hire a management company.
I just had a flashback. I'm sweating right now. It makes sense psychologically. Yeah.
You can't walk away.
All jokes aside, you invest in something, you're putting money into it, but people got to be there.
Absolutely.
So, you have the baby, show up. Anyway.
It's like this. People are, if I have clients that are wanting to work with me for real estate, sometimes I have the real fun client that never look on any of the websites, and then when I take them out for their first showing, I get to select where we're looking, what type of real estate that we're looking at, and that's actually my most fun client.
Okay.
Then I'll have clients where I can get in our very first talk, our very first conversation, what it is that they're looking for. So I'll ask them, could you please look on Julia or any of the websites, show me what it is that you're looking at. That way I have an idea of what you're interested in. And that's fine too. But in terms of investment, I'll ask them how involved you want to be, and then I ask, well, what are your expectations financially?
What do most people say?
Oh, well, I just want an investment, an income-producing property, which is perfectly fine. That's the whole point of an investment property. But there are also factors that go into play: vacancies, repairs. Nothing is ever perfect. It's not like...
You find that in the last few years, a lot of people, or more people, are calling and completely unaware of a lot of the process than prior to?
So I really put the fear of God into my investors before they make an investment.
Why?
Because I want to make sure that they're ready for it. If you're truly ready for something, it doesn't matter how much I try and talk you out of it. You're still going to move forward with it, right? No matter what with that suit. If I tell you, well, stripes are not so this, or I'm just making it.
No, yeah, I love you. Oh.
Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure that you're ready for it? If they say yes, then I know that they're ready for it.
You don't like my stripes?
I think that you could shave your head bald and you'd still be awesome.
I'm going to tear up. People are crying. I'm going to cry. I'm just like, please tell me more.
Can we get some tissue?
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting that you say that, because I had talked to Barry Habibi, that started MBS Highway Mortgage. I call him the Mortgage Poseidon. It's one thing I learned from him was he always tells the bad first. Mm-hmm. It was like that idea of tell the truth, tell them what could go wrong, so they can make an educated decision. And
Absolutely.
What you're saying reminds me of that, like really, really, really.
An educated decision, like to me, that's like in neon flashing lights.
How has making educated decisions helped you personally?
It has and it hasn't, because I'm a normal human being, so I have not always made the best decisions, but I try to make educated decisions, meaning like slow down, think about it overnight, process it, and at the end of the day, just know that if it's the right thing to do, that's what's going to happen. I believe in that organically. If something has to be forced, then that's not for you. It's the same thing with a property. Like the first thing that a client always asks me, well, how am I going to know which one I like best? I always say, if you sit down on that couch, or if you walk into a room for the second or third time and you switch on that light and you're starting to see yourself putting furniture or situating yourself in that room, then that's your house. You feel in your gut like anything else. You have to trust your gut. That's what I think is that's what I would tell anyone in terms of advice.
That's interesting. It makes me think of social media and how active you actually been on it. And we were talking earlier saying that 99% of your business nowadays comes from social media.
Absolutely.
How do you trust your gut with who you accept, like add friends, or who you don't congregate with on there? Because there's so many people.
That's a good question.
It's kind of gets gray, and
I know.
A lot of creepers I hear, a lot of value, but a lot of fake bookers. There's a guy going around named Doran, Craig Doran or something like that.
Oh my God.
Took my face, my pictures, and he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook.
I think he messaged me yesterday.
Stop. Are you getting me? Is the suit bad again?
No, the suit's definitely not bad.
Did he message you?
No. Wasn't that name?
Good.
It was a Doran.
Dorian or something. The point is, how do you pick your friends on Facebook or on Instagram? And you're doing a lot of business on social media. So a lot of people are still like, you're like, I'm going to do the old school way. Right? I'm going to drive a horse to work, not a car. Or they're like, well, I don't know how to do it. So can you shed some light first on how you decide who to congregate with on there?
So are we talking about accepting people on Facebook specifically?
Let's start with that, I guess, because I mean, it's all different, right?
It is. So on Facebook, I get friend requests, and of course, naturally, the first thing I do is I see who our mutual friends are.
Okay, so that's your first step.
That's the first thing I do. I accept them, and usually they bury their own grave.
I love this.
If they do. They bury themselves. So if I get a message after I accept them that's a wave.
Oh, the waving's out?
If it's a wave asking me something about, do I like this place or do I like that place? Like, would I want to meet them on a date or something
You see
creepy?
that a lot? You see that? Okay.
It's natural. I mean, that's something I'll usually respond and say, look, I'm married, or, I thought that you were, it's fine, we can be friends, but if you're looking for this, that, or...
Coming to, right? Okay, so I want to clarify something first, too. 99% of your business coming from social media. Which platform predominantly, or is there a mix? Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, am I missing anything?
So, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Okay.
I am active on all.
Okay.
But they all serve different purposes. So I find Facebook to be the most popular with getting direct messages. I find Instagram the most popular in terms of subliminal advertising and messages. I mean, everything that you see on me right now, purchased from Instagram.
Oh, really?
I am an Instagram, you know what. I love it. I mean, I'm up at night, looking through all these stories, and I'm hearing about designers that I'm not even familiar with, but I'm loving what I'm seeing. So, you swipe up,
so
you
purchase
shop it.
clothing from Instagram?
Love it. I love Instagram.
I got to do more stories.
Instagram is so great because it's fun to watch. I even enjoy the filters on Instagram. I love seeing what other people are doing, and it doesn't annoy me. Facebook, however, I find I get the most direct messaging.
Okay. What about LinkedIn? How do you...
I think that LinkedIn is great. That's my more grown-up site.
Put your grown-up hat on.
Yeah.
And are you posting regularly on all of them, or what's your process? Then again, disclaimer, it doesn't seem like anyone on the planet has you must do this.
Right.
We talk about it, CM, Culture Matters. Just post so much. If they hate you, they'll unfriend you.
Yep.
If they love you, they'll want to marry you. That's an actual mantra. But what are some of the ways that you do that you put yourself out there? Because you're generating business. You started the business right when that started, social media, but people didn't really use it.
Right.
And, you're generating your business from it. So someone watching it's like, well, I got in the business. Maybe they're afraid to make a call.
Right.
But they can put a post out.
Mm-hmm. Well, without giving too many of my secrets now, Jay.
Yeah, hey,
It's a competitive world.
Real estate team here.
Absolutely.
Are you taking on mentees ever?
Absolutely. Always.
There you go.
Absolutely. I post strictly business and real estate on LinkedIn. Okay. Nothing personal at all. On Instagram, it's a mix of both. And on Facebook, it's also a mix of both. Because, I am who I am. I'm not going to stop living just because I practice real estate. I also am very involved in things that happen in Philadelphia. I love the restaurants. I love going to new places. So I like sharing that because I enjoy watching what people are doing as well. So I'm hoping that they're enjoying watching me. When I go see listings, for example, that aren't my own, the more listings I put my eyes on, I feel like the more knowledgeable it makes me as a realtor. Because if you were coming to me today as a first-time home buyer and you told me that you were looking for A, B, C, and D, right away it's in my memory bank. Well, I've seen 5 properties like that in the last 2 days. So I don't have to say, well, let me check with my assistant and let me check trend and see what I can find you. I like to be able to be knowledgeable about it. Well, I just saw this place yesterday that I think you're really going to like. It had this, it had that, it had this, it had that. And when I'm going through that process, they're telling me, well, it doesn't mean so much to me to have a basement, although this place that you're mentioning does. Or I definitely want to have outdoor space. It doesn't have to be a roof deck, but I do want it to be ground level. So giving that information and then letting them scale it back to what it is that they want, I think is a lot more helpful than just getting inundated with listings.
Wow. So you put out things consistently, not just sales stuff, I guess you could say, of what you already have, but you're actually putting out information to see what people bite on so you can start conversations?
Absolutely.
Has that been a pivotal part of you being able to build actual valuable relationships online?
Totally. And relationships with other realtors. I mean, I go to their listings and, I mean, this is a great business. I'm surrounded by incredible real estate professionals. So, of course, I'm going to go to their listings. And before I post about it or anything, I'll ask their permission. You know, is it okay? Yeah. And a lot of the times I see exactly what my client is looking for. I don't necessarily post the address or anything like that on my Facebook, but I love, you know, everyone is always looking to buy a home, in my opinion. There's just always a reason why they're not. They feel like they can't afford it. They feel like they're not ready for it. They feel like it's going to intimidate their significant other if they own a home, if they don't own a home. There's a million questions. But if someone sees something they like anything else, they're going to ask you questions. Well, how much is it? Well, what are the condo fees? Well, what are the taxes? Well, what do you think that the value will be for me in a few years? What do you think this? What do you think that? To generate questions is probably the most challenging part of my business and also the most exciting part. Because I love nothing more than getting a message from a friend of mine that I have known for 10 years that say to me, oh my God, I love that post that you made yesterday. And I'm thinking, well, I made like a bunch, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. But, you know, everyone is different. There are no two people that are the same, which is something that I also love about this business. I have a couple of houses that I've seen that have these adorable little outdoor spaces, and the colors remind me of this one person that's on my Facebook page. And it just so happens that when I post a picture of that outdoor space, that person is the one who messages me first.
Interesting. You see that often?
I do. Because it's very simple to learn what other people are looking for. All you have to do is listen.
And okay, so after, you know, the whole reason why I personally started doing interviews more than me just talking is because what I noticed was, especially not only in myself getting used to talking and liking to hear that, scaling the I guess the corporate ladder, the life ladder, reading books on biographies, people of influence tend to stop listening because everyone's asking them what they think.
Right.
And you can get kind of like, you know,
on
your own stuff. Exactly, pretty easily. So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing interviews so I can become a better listener. Mm-hmm. That has fundamentally changed my life. You, it seems, have been listening for a long time. What do you think is the most valuable outcome of that? And then also, can you reiterate how you came about harnessing that skill? Because at the same time, you're a great salesperson. You're very enthusiastic and quick-witted, and you have things to say.
Thank you.
You have things to say. When we talk, we both talk a lot, and we're over-talking each other, and we're like conversating.
Constantly.
We're the same person, right? It took a lot for me, maybe this is my just personal question, it took a lot for me to work on listening. What's the best outcome of you listening, and then how did you do it?
Well, first of all, I had to learn to be a better listener. And I think that the only way that you can learn is by rejection. For example, what drew me to you was because I believe that it takes one to know one, right? So when you were talking, I felt like, you've been places, you've seen things, you've been through a lot, which got you to where you are today. Not to say that it's more than me or less than what I've been through, but I feel like people like us we can scope each other out. We can find that out. So, I feel like to be patient, listen to what people have to say, because everyone just wants to be heard. No one is an expert at anything, I don't believe. There's always room for growth. I can learn from my clients can learn from me. Of course, yes, I'm a realtor. This is my specialty. But at the same time, I always learn different things from them. Every time we go into a house, I have the client that will look at something and say, that's odd. So I will take that with me. I'll put that in my memory bank. And when I go on a listing appointment or something like that, these are things that I try and tell people to avoid. Like maybe you want to put your personal photos away. Maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to do this with the colors. Maybe you want to do that with the colors. I find it to be reciprocal if the other person is willing to listen as well, and they're willing to set their egos aside. Then I think that you have the perfect marriage, so to speak. Does that answer your question?
How has that thought process of, in a sense, giving to receive by listening to understand and then them doing so? What's the best outcome that's ever come from you doing that?
You know, I've just seeing some of my friends grow. So I'm 39 years old. I have friends that have trusted me since I started in real estate. So we're going back to when I was 29. And they trusted me from the very beginning, and just seeing how much they've grown and how they are entrepreneurs themselves. And they continue to ask me for advice, and they continue to send me referrals, and that has been the most gratifying thing for me. Wow. Yeah, it's been incredible.
10-year-long relationships.
Absolutely.
What does the next 10 years look like for you in real estate?
I would love...
Are you building an app? Like, what do you love? This is where I need to listen. I've cut you off.
You know, there are a lot of reasons why people get into real estate. I don't know how many realtors actually get into it because they want to be a salesperson the rest of their lives. I actually enjoy selling real estate. I really do. I love looking at houses. I love dealing with all different types of people, and I love a challenge. You know, my end goal, of course, would be to own properties, you know, be able to collect income from these properties. The same thing that I tell my investors is the same thing I want to do myself. So 10 years from now, what would that look like? Hopefully, I'll be calling you from a beach, drinking iced tea with an umbrella in it.
Culture culottes.
Absolutely, culture culottes. That sounds great. I love that. That sounds really good.
Many masks I can wear.
Absolutely.
Final question, and then I want to ask it. Well, the second and final.
Okay.
If you, knowing what you know today, from everything you've learned from being in the web design, website sales, the management of restaurant, bartender, dealing with people, moving into the real estate space. 2 weeks before you got your real estate, well, 2 weeks before you got that first check, right, from that first renter, what would you tell yourself, knowing what you know today? This is before you got that check. You didn't get the check. You're stressed out at John. You trust him. You respect him. You don't really want to take the test.
Yep.
But you did it, right?
What would I tell myself?
Yeah, you didn't get the check yet. This mentor had seen something you're high in your own devices. You're kicking butt in management.
So before I answer that question, this is sort of tied into it, but when I ever deal with first-time buyers that are like 25 to like 32, they're my favorite to give advice to. Because I tell them, when I was your age, if I knew then what I knew now, I probably would just be collecting rent. I wouldn't even be working. It's all about the investments that you make. Like, you know, your investments are always going to come back to you. It just depends on how long it takes. And you have to be patient. I deal with people all the time, like, you know, I want to flip, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm not like, I don't really believe in that thought process. But, you know, if right before I got my real estate license, what would I tell myself? We were all young at one time. You know, I went through my money real quick. I spent it on probably things that I didn't need. And if I could go back in time, I probably would have been a little bit more cautious about that. I wish I had someone that was kind of telling me, like, you know what, Jamie, maybe you want to do this, maybe you want to do that. And I listened. I wish I listened more to advice.
Interesting, because it seems like you've really become a great listener.
I have. But when I was younger, I thought that I knew everything.
You're awesome. What is one question you have for me and Culture Matters before you wrap this up? This was amazing.
So I did love hearing about your story. My question to you is, whenever you're interviewing people, does it ever turn around and does the interview become about you?
It's funny. So yes, out of 95, like 1 or 2, it started to happen more than not.
Okay. Give me an example. What are you asked most?
What is Culture Matters?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your intention to listen. I'm asked definitely, what is it exactly? What I noticed as we met through an individual, your husband, through Facebook, then we met at an event you came to, the more that we put ourselves out there, whether it be on the street, on the soapbox, or whether it be on Facebook and social media like both of us have done, the more that and consistency of that, the more people started to say, like, what is that exactly? And start looking like, and then if they did listen, like, there was a time where, I'd be walking down the street, and metaphorically speaking, of course, 9 out of 10 people would be like, but 1 out of 10 would give me a high five. In this last end of this year, 9 out of 10 give me a high five, and 1 would be like, I don't get it. So I did notice that.
I mean, people spend way too much time tearing each other down. I just think that if they spent more time helping each other and building each other up, we could really solve a lot of the problems that this world has. I know that sounds cliche. Yeah. It's really true.
Because human culture matters.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. This was awesome. I can't wait to put it out. That's it.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah.